about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So over the weekend, I was in Colorado. We went to Colorado Springs. Although when you're in Colorado, you don't call Colorado Springs, you call it the Springs. When you say, "Oh, I'm in Colorado Springs," you sound like a tourist. So you got to be like, "Oh, I'm in the Springs." And then we went up to Denver, and we did a lot of hiking. And there was some the Garden of the Gods, the Seven Falls waterfall. Just beautiful stuff I'll tell you about later. But I'm licensed in Colorado. And so I see patients in Colorado virtually over the phone. And so one place that really intrigued me about Colorado, because I've never been, is Castle Rock. And patients are saying, okay, will you send it to the Walgreens in Castle Rock? And I was like, Castle Rock. So I look it up, and it's a city. It's like a suburb south of Denver, north of the Springs, where it's this rock that looks like a castle. And I'm like, well, that looks fun to hike. And it looks easy to hike, hour or so. It doesn't really look that hard. So I'm like, next time I'm ever in Colorado, I want to go and see Castle Rock. So we go, and people really, really nice. And so you park, and then you're able to go up a mountain. Now, in Las Vegas, we have this lone mountain where you can easily go up to the summit. We have Mount Charleston. Those summits are a lot harder to get up, but there's Red Rock. So there's lots of different places to summit when you go up a mountain. So if you're going to climb up a mountain, you want to hit the summit. I just don't want to go to a base. I get with the Rockies you have to, but with something like this that only looks like it's only a few hundred feet high, come on. And so you do the hike. It's not very technical. I think we did the more technical side of it, and it took, I don't know, not too long. But then they bring it to the base, and you look up, and it's just walls. It looks like a castle. And I'm like, well, how do we get up there? And so some people that were coming back down the trail, I'm like, can you go up to the top? And they're like, well, no. It only takes you to the base of the mountain. There's a sign saying don't climb to the top, but some people do. Okay, well, that's all I needed to know. I need to know some people because I'm in the some people category. Okay, I don't really follow directions. I'm like, okay, if there's something that could be done and it's doable, I'm going to do it. So you walk around and there's a sign saying don't do it. There's boulders, etc. But I'm like, but it's doable because on the side of it, you could see there's some boulders. I mean, I might have to kind of guide my tushy, up and down, but I could somehow do this. So I'm with my son, and he's like, Mom, you probably shouldn't. And I'm like, but look, you could get up there. There's a flag. There's an American flag up at the top of the Castle Rock. This is doable. So you stay here because I'm worried about you, but I'm going to do this. Well, I get myself stuck because there's just this. I don't have equipment because it was just Castle Rock. Who knew you needed equipment? So I was going to try to make this leap and I couldn't because you could actually see a ledge where you could go to. But then meanwhile, my son's like, Mom, I found another way. So we go and we find another way. The only problem is I had an issue because you had to get on your knees and you had to climb on your knees. My knees are shot. I can't put any weight on my knees. So Stone had to come back down and then push me from my butt in order to get me on my feet because I just couldn't stay on my knees for a long time because I'm getting old. Meanwhile, there's people down at the bottom of the hill watching. And then they start to go up. So we very easily navigate up the rocks. And I made sure each rock wasn't, loose, although that's still dangerous. Never do that. But we get up. We're up there, and then all of a sudden, I look behind, and now there's parents and little kids. And then I'm like, guys, you shouldn't have done that. It's dangerous. And they're like, but you did it. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm old, but still, dangerous. Don't be doing that. Don't be, because now coming back down, you could slide off. And, there's a big sign, and none of us listened to it. I didn't listen to it. The parents of these young kids didn't listen to it. There were some tourists from, I think, Poland that were there. That came up. That was good because then they could take pictures of me when I'm up at the top. But nobody's listening to these signs. So why is it? Why do we not listen to warning signs? I usually do. Don't touch this, danger. It could be electrified. Don't go on the train tracks when there's a train. I mean, I'm not stupid, but when it comes to certain things that you have a comfort level in, like in medicine, big no. You never recap a needle. Now I know they have these things where it automatically caps, but I didn't want my nurses getting hurt. So after I would use a needle, I would recap it because I didn't want them to accidentally, because I like to clean my own tray. I just didn't want to lose a needle. So when you're in medicine, you're really comfortable with it, you do things, but you're not supposed to. You could still hurt yourself. That's why there's warnings. And so I'm looking at the psychology of this. Is it because we get that dopamine surge that we were able to do something we weren't supposed to do that was still legal? Was it that we felt like those rules are for the, non-hikers or whatever, and we're in a class of athletes? Yeah, like I'm a real athlete. I mean, is it that we want to feel like there are rules, two sets of rules for, depending on, and I see that. I see that in politics. Well, there's different rules, depending on who you are. And I'm not a fan of that. I think the rules should be the same for everybody. That's just the way it should be. I don't like the idea of separate rules, but I got to tell you, I wanted to climb up Castle Rock. I wanted to get to the summit area. I did, but it was dangerous. And now I feel bad because these other people were following my lead and they did it. But because they're probably like, well, if her and her big butt can do it, then then all of us can. So I just want to take this time saying, look, if there is a sign saying, watch out for boulders, it's dangerous, trail ends here, trail ends there. They do that because somebody must have gotten hurt or somebody died. Everybody says, oh, yeah, Daliah, those signs are just CYA to cover their butts. They're worried about a lawsuit. Then even if that is the case, why are they worried about a lawsuit? Did somebody die? Did somebody fall off? Did somebody crack their head? I heard that Dennis Prager had a horrific accident where he's been paralyzed, and it was a fall at his house. So understand that even though you might think that you're, the super athlete, you're not. And bad things can happen. And if an issue is going to happen, you might be the one where it does. So follow the signs. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making this show happen. Oh, big thanks to my computer and its beautiful volume that seems to kind of resonate. Big thanks to my producer, Daniel, who is so awesome. Big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing that I am very, very frustrated about is people and their overuse of medications that are legal prescriptions and thinking, well, because they're legal and they're not drugs, they're okay, they're safe. And so you'll see there's some headlines talking about people using sleep aids over the counter. We've spoken about this. When you take antihistamines like Tylenol PM that have diphenhydramine or Benadryl or Doxepin, or these medications, or doxalamine and Unisom to help you sleep, there's a higher risk of dementia. There's been studies showing that people that are consistently taking these anti-sleep aids over the counter can be at higher risk of dementia. Is it that the medications are causing dementia? Or is it that you have health conditions that are preventing you from sleeping well, and such that those same health conditions put you at higher risk for dementia? So many individuals look at that going, well, wait a second. Why don't I do like what the White Lotus lady does? She takes lorazepam to sleep. And they've been really bringing up her benzodiazepine use, and I think her husband's using it. I don't want to do any spoilers of this season, but these benzodiazepines have been around for a while, and they are sedatives, anti-anxiolytics, so they help prevent or mitigate anxiety, but they are very, very highly addictive. Not to mention, these medications scare the hell out of me, because if you take these medications on a regular basis, your Valium or clonazepam or Klonopin, diazepam, Xanax, alprazolam, Ativan, these, they'll end in am or an, but Valium, but Pam, when they end in am, it's in the benzodiazepine class. And my concern is if you stop them abruptly, you could seize. You could seize and die. Now, if you stop an opioid abruptly, you might have horrible diarrhea. You might have horrible pain. You might be very depressed. Some people suicidal. But the stopping of an opioid in and of itself won't necessarily kill you right away. Benzodiazepine, yes. You take this every day, and then you don't have your medications, you lose your medications, or you stop, you could seize, you could die. These medications are very, very scary, but they are used so ubiquitously. People say, well, it helps me sleep. It helps me calm down. It helps me not get grumpy. Some people call them their happy pills. They're not supposed to make you happy. But when somebody is really on edge, and they're grumpy and they're griping and they're looking for a fight, something like that mellows them out. And so these medications are being prescribed for a whole multitude of reasons. I had a patient who was taking it on a regular basis for her blood pressure. And I'm like, listen, I don't mind you taking an anti-anxiety medication if you suffer from anxiety. And I understand anxiety increases your blood pressure, but you can't be on these medications long term. They're short term. They're short acting and they're short term. And unfortunately, people are using these because they're so cheap. People are getting prescriptions for $1.50, a bottle for a month, that now, and I talked about this years ago. I talked about this, I've been talking about this for years. How we have this epidemic. Everybody talks about the opioids and marijuana. There's also a benzodiazepine epidemic. And so the lorazepam that has been made very famous on White Lotus, but it's the brand name is Ativan. It's a very fast-acting medication. In fact, I would use Ativan in my patients during the 90s when they would come in at risk of DTs, delirium tremens from alcohol withdrawal. And we would use Ativan to prevent the seizure from people stopping alcohol abruptly. Fast acting, but again, not anything you're supposed to be using long term. Well, that's what people are using. They're using them to sleep, to relax. And side effects could be dizziness, confusion, memory issues. It can affect your breathing, but a huge, huge risk is it can interact with other medications. You are not allowed to have that and a glass of wine. Now, some people say, Dr. Daliah, I never take my medication with wine. Okay, well, do you have wine at dinner? Yes. And then what do you take to go to sleep? Well, I take the, lorazepam or alprazolam or diazepam and when do you go to sleep? Well, after we have some wine, we talk a little bit. The wine's in your system. Yes, that you're not supposed to be drinking alcohol at all if you're taking these medications. You're not supposed to take these medications if you've had any alcohol. I don't know all the details of Heath Ledger's passing, but at the time it was postulated that he had Xanax or benzodiazepine. He had Ambien used for sleep, possibly a pain pill, and some alcohol. Now, all these medications can be received legally. These are legal prescriptions, but the interaction of all of them could be enough to kill you. It's very habit forming. And then if you start taking it on a regular basis, now when you don't get it, you get a reactive or a rebound anxiety or a rebound insomnia. So I know your next question is, well, Dr. Daliah, if I can't take these over-the-counter antihistamines for sleep, and I'm not supposed to be drinking alcohol to sleep or to calm down, and these anti-anxiety medications can be worrisome, taking them long-term, what am I supposed to do? Well, that's what you and your medical provider have to figure out. What is it that's making you anxious? What is it that's causing you not the ability not to sleep? What is it that is revving you up, causing your mind to wander? So I have a family member that is aging and starting to have some health issues. And what's starting to keep me up at night is thinking about all the things I have to do for that person. And it's overwhelming. Well, okay, you lose one night's sleep. It's understandable, but you can't, just worrying about it doesn't fix the problem. And so whenever I struggle with sleep or I struggle with worries, I stop and go, okay, is my sitting there worrying about it fixing it? What fixes the problem? Well, one is coming up with a plan, recruiting help. So if you're worried about, let's say, your job, okay, you could leave your job. You could talk to your employer. You could talk to your coworkers. You could talk to your medical provider. But just sitting there lying in bed at night worrying, that's not gonna solve anything. Now, people do that because, one, their mind is preoccupied with it. It's really hard to think about a Hawaiian beach when you have such pressing, stressful issues. I mean, imagine some of these federal workers that are really worried that any day, their job is going to get cut. It's stressful. I get that. It's stressful. But, what some people do is, well, I can't turn it off, so I'll go and I'll take a benzodiazepine, or I'll take a sedative, or I'll use marijuana. So my recommendation is get to a medical provider, let them help you. A lot of people have issues with sleep and or issues with plane flight. They're very nervous about being on a plane flight, so they take these medications. Now, I did prescribe them, very rarely, a few tablets. But if I saw that somebody was asking for a bottle of 90, I can't do that. You're going to then need to seek medical help of somebody that does manage anxiety better, because these medicines are not supposed to be for long-term anxiety. We have SSRIs. We have other medications for anxiety and depression. What if it's your thyroid? What if it's your blood sugar? What if the reason why you can't sleep or you're anxious is because you're in pain? So somebody has to help find the root. Once you find the root of the issue, you could then address it better. Now, I know that takes time. I know that's not fun. I know it's not sexy. It's so much easier to just pop a pill. But unfortunately, that's not sustainable, and it's dangerous. And if you are on a medication like Valium or Xanax or Ativan or any of these lorazepams, alprazolams, diazepams, or whatever brand name you're on, and you're on a regular basis and you stop taking it abruptly, that's dangerous. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, the drama continues. We knew there was going to be drama. And, I am actually a fan of a lot of the things going on in terms of Doge. I think, finding waste, fraud, and abuse was number one, securing our border. So I've actually been very, shall we say, pleased that things are getting done, because the last 4 years have been an absolute cluster. But there has been many critics of Trump who do not want him in office. In fact, some of these acts of terrorism, domestic terrorism on Tesla service centers and things like that, and people saying resist, and calling for the removal or the death of Elon Musk and Trump. I mean, people are sick out there, and when they're angry, and they'll try to advocate for very, very bad things. But stirring the pot is Trump saying that he could be president for a third term. Now, how I look at that is when he says that, let me see if I have any exact quote from him. I think he told NBC News that he's not ruling out a third term. He said, let me see if I have a quote. He goes, "I'm not joking." He said, "There are methods which you could do it." This was in a telephone interview with NBC News. He says it is far too early to think about it. Now, what he's talking about is, if that's really what he's talking about, becoming a president for a third 4 years. Now, we have the 22nd Amendment that prohibits that. But what he's alluding to is, if you really look at the writing of the 22nd Amendment, yes, technically there are ways. It's not going to be popular, for somebody to do that. And the reason why the 22nd Amendment, I think it was enacted in the early 1950s. It was after FDR had 4 elections that put him into office. People were really worried about Mussolini and Hitler and dictators, and so they wanted to ensure that we didn't have somebody who was continuing to be elected, or in no checks and balances, where they would be unchecked and then being able to continue to be our president for years on end. So the 22nd Amendment, and let me give you the verbiage of that. all right, is no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Elected is the key word. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. So after FDR died and Truman came in, depending on how many years that was put in there, because if, let's say, somebody came in or was ascended in the last year of that previous administration's 4-year term, there's wiggle room. But if it was before the 2-year mark, now they're almost serving a whole term, and so that's why there's that language. But this 22nd Amendment is really about preventing somebody getting elected twice. Well, what if they become vice president and then something happens to the president? Can they become then? What if Congress chooses to allow the ascension of somebody? I think it's the 25th Amendment. You invoke the 25th Amendment if you feel like somebody isn't of sound mind or sick. And so Trump saying that there's ways around it, but it's too early to talk about now, I know is getting everybody riled up. I truly believe that this is what I believe. Number one is he is the art of the distractor. Okay, he needs everybody to feed and piranha away at little things and tweets he does so he could get other things done. And so my guess is he's working on something bigger and badder, bigger and better, or bigger and badder, something with more juice. And so letting the media sit here and dissect and all these resources going to, well, let's look at the 22nd Amendment and let's get all these legal pundits on. It's a distraction. I mean, does he really want to when he's he'll be 78? Does he? No. Does he really want to, as he's, nearing his 80s, really want to be president for another 4 years? Now, what I do predict is after these 4 years, for him to get J.D. Vance elected or for the Republicans to possibly win again, there has been nobody more popular in the Republican Party right now than Trump. And so what I said earlier on is he is going to, during the next election, the 2028 election, have to convince people that he's not going away. And I predicted this early on. As soon as he was elected, everyone's like, yeah, well, he's only going to be there for 4 years. And then will anybody, elect Vance? J.D. Vance is no Trump. Well, J.D. Vance, I mean, he is still very, very capable. And we'll see what happens on the Democratic side. Is it going to be Governor Newsom? Wes Moore is very promising from Maryland, Governor of Maryland. There are some promising individuals on the Democratic side. And so J.D. Vance is not going to be able to be a shoo-in if the Trump 47 presidency is still a windfall. It's not going to be an absolute shoo-in. You saw what happened with George H.W. Bush after Ronald Reagan. So people are going to be a little bit more skeptical or cautiously optimistic. That's why Trump is ensuring that J.D. Vance is on camera, going to Greenland in discussions with Zelensky, so that when there is credit for the end of the war or the acquisition of territory that protects our national security or whatever, J.D. Vance can actually have that on his resume. And again, he's a very intelligent man. But my prediction is Trump is going to have to campaign for whoever's going to be running and say, look, I'm not gone. I'm still here. And now with Ronald Reagan, that couldn't happen. With Ronald Reagan, he was starting to deteriorate. He was aging. He needed to leave and retire. But if Trump feels like he's on a roll, he is going to want to be in some, I guess, somehow. And why? People would say, well, why? Why doesn't he just go? After his second term, why wouldn't he just go? And my reasoning, the psychology of all this, my theory is he was, I think, destroyed by the fact that whatever he built in the first 4 years was reversed by Biden. The wall was either taken down or stopped. The economic growth or whatever that he took credit, whatever happened during his 4 years got forgotten. And the history books were, it was whoever the author was of the day, their, shall we say, account of it. And so he wants permanent moves. That's why we have a Gulf of America. That's why he wants the end of the war. He wants things that history, no matter how much whoever the author is, dislikes them, can't necessarily twist it. If he brought end to the war, he brought an end to the war. If he brought the NASA astronauts back, he brought them back. So he might, if work isn't done, want to ensure, like Obamacare. We still have Obamacare. We're still talking about President Barack Obama because we have Obamacare and high deductibles and tons of people on Medicaid. We have a quarter of the U.S. on Medicaid. I mean, sometimes it could haunt you for years. For other people, they're like, and even Obama said, I like the fact that my name's on it. So if Trump isn't going to have Trump care or Trumponomics, he might want to somehow be involved. Technically, no, he will not be able to be elected. But is he going to somehow be in the background? Is he going to be an advisor? Is it going to be kind of like what Elon Musk is? I wouldn't be surprised. 1-877-DOC-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. Totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I keep hearing from people, if I was rich, I'd be healthy. And the reason why so many of us struggle with cancer, obesity, and other health issues is because we don't have the money. And rich people have it easier. They're not wrong. Rich people do have it easier. Rich people can possibly have an insurance that doesn't have a $10,000 deductible so they can have checkups. They could go to Walter Reed if they're president. They could have a chef make them delicious tasting hamburgers that are vegetable based. I mean, Wealthy people may have a much easier path towards good health, but we still see rich people die. Cancer, drug overdoses. Oh, it kills me to see Hollywood destroy their bodies like they do. Elvis, for example. I'm a huge Elvis fan. Love his music. Went to Graceland. Understand a lot of, his history. But, he didn't have to die in his 40s. You had everything. And it frustrates us. And so whenever somebody says, yeah, well, the rich have it easier. Yeah, but they not always, because they're still dying and overdosing and getting into accidents and but that concept, if we kind of break it down, what do the rich do that you're thinking is making them healthier? So, for example, I'd be skinny if I had a chef make me vegetables that really taste good so that I don't have to eat a burger for lunch. And that costs money. Well, it does, but I think you know how to make a good tasting salad. There's a restaurant nearby. It's called Shucks. And they make their own salad dressing, a balsamic salad dressing. And it is delicious. Now, I do think it probably has a lot of sugar in it. But I got to tell you, I will push away any hamburger or whatever to have a salad with that dressing on it. That dressing is so damn good. And I got to tell you, I think it only costs a couple bucks. I don't necessarily have to hire a chef. And there are, by the way, that's a good job. If for those of you who like to cook and cook with healthy ingredients and low calories, that's a great business where you can advertise to middle class, lower income houses saying, look, I can help do your meal prep where it tastes really good. It tastes super fancy, but it's not that expensive and it's still healthy. If you know how to do that, you got one hell of a business idea. And there are individuals that will meal prep for you. I understand there's all these companies saying, well, we'll send you the ingredients and we'll send you. But, if you really think that you would eat healthier, if you had somebody who knew how to cook fish that made you like it, etc., that's doable. You don't have to be super rich. So what exactly are the rich doing? Well, this article caught my eye. Lake Lucerne is exquisite. That whole area, Switzerland, Italy, Lake Como, all those lakes among the Alps, absolutely exquisite. Well, apparently, there's this medical palace where it's about 45 minutes from Zurich, 8-hour flight from New York. It's a 5-star wellness retreat. And it caters to very, very wealthy people, according to New York Post. It costs $10,000 a week. I'm not going. And they go to the Chenot Palace Wiggy. They do customized meal plan, strict diet, hydrotherapy sessions, massages, red light therapy, Botox, whatever that's supposed to be healthy or helpful. And you have this picturesque castle-like, I guess, place you're at. Beautiful, breathtaking views. And Dr. George Gaetanos, Chief Operating and Scientific Officer of the Chenot Group, says, I don't see it as a hotel. I see it as a hospital of the future. People travel from around the world to stay at the medical spa. Guests have included Middle Eastern royalty and Swiss pro tennis players. And U.S. are their second biggest clientele. And these people are fairly health conscious. Many of them are fit, but they want to optimize their health. So this place, I mean, again, this is for the rich. I wouldn't even be able to step foot on this place. But on staff are 6 doctors, 5 acupuncturists, osteopaths, physiotherapists, nurses, massage therapists, technical staff. I'd like to work there. And they cover all the bases of guest health and wellness needs. So it's like a health retreat. They reset, they recharge, they leave healthier on a cellular level. They say cells are like batteries. As time goes on, they become rusty, energy depletes. But, you are able to replete them. And so they give you a medical consultation. They do a string of diagnostic tests. They're put on an 850 calorie plant-based diet developed by the medical school in Nottingham. They're able to, I guess, feel like they're coming out of there healthy. Now, I mean, do people keep that up? I mean, how do you stay on an 850 calorie diet that is made by world-class chefs? But this is what some of the rich people do, not everybody. But can you replicate that when you're not rich? Now, they have IVs and altitude chambers and cryotherapy and bioenergetic treatments. I would be a little nervous about that. I think that's a lot all at once. The healthiest people, these centenarians, these people that live, way over 100, they don't go to these places. Many of them are in Europe, some of them Japan. And some of the common threads is they have a daily routine. They don't eat a horrible diet. Many of them do have a glass of wine. Again, remember, it's different strokes for different folks. For some of us, wine could cause cancer, other issues. For others, it might help them live longer. They have their daily exercise. They poop at the same time. They figure out ways to minimize stress. And they also probably have good genes. Now, I don't need to live till 115, 120. I mean, my joints can barely get through it. I'm middle age. But, if you feel like you need a week where you're looking at picturesque views, okay, you could easily go to the beach. If you feel like, you need to go through the pampering, there are ways to do that without it being expensive. But let your doctor help guide you. If you really feel like you need a medical spa or a medical retreat, they're out there and not as expensive. I remember growing up, some of my family members said they needed to go to a fat farm. And I didn't understand what a fat farm was. We don't use that term anymore, but they called it that in the 80s, where these, they would, for people who want to lose weight, there was exercise, classes, therapy, psychotherapy, as well as physical therapy, cognitive therapy, and then eating and ways to eat to help you, and like nuts, things like that would help curb your hunger so that when you would go through that, you would lose weight. And they weren't very, very expensive. So I think one of the things to the future will be some of these camps, some of these retreats, not these Lake Lucerne, Swiss Alps, exquisite Italian picturesque landscapes where you spend thousands of dollars a week. But, I think there's ways to replicate that. But the key is no more 99-cent hamburgers, fast food, exercising, and being open to changes in your health. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.